I know where we are,
Hmm.
but I have to get our message to them so they could be aware of the need in our community to help food pantries and people
I
around the
can
world, frankly.
see
Hmm.
you. I can see me. I'll be the eyes so that I just can be.
This is another episode of a special series called Enough for All of the podcast Walk, Talk, Listen. This series sheds light on 75 years of an NGO called CWS. My name is Maurice Bloem and I welcome you to another episode of Walk, Talk, Listen. Good day, everybody. This is another episode of the podcast about Church World Service, and as usual, I have a great guest, a person that is still doing a lot for Church World Service, but he will introduce himself. Marty.
Thank you, Maurice. My name is Marty Colchamiro. I'm the social media coordinator for the Hunger Walkathon West Crop Walk. That's in the Oak Park, Illinois area, about 10 miles from Chicago. I've been involved in the Hunger Walk for about 10 years, and I was first brought on to help with their website because the person who had designed it uh, and volunteered for it was no longer going to be able to do it. So a friend of mine on the team asked if I could do it, and I thought it was a challenge for me at the time, and I took on that role. And in so doing, I've learned so much more about uh, church world service and what they do, along with the crop hunger walks that are around the United States.
And Marty, you were saying 10 years you are now involved with the Crop Hunger Walk. Was 10 years ago also the first time that you had heard about Church World Service?
Yes, up until that time, I was unaware of church world service. And when I got on the team and I met the church world service coordinator
Hmm.
in our region and got to learn more about what church world service does and the fact that the walk uh, raises money and 75% of that goes to church world service and the work that they do around the world.
Hmm.
And as I learned more, I became to understand how important the work that is being done by the church world service is. And a lot of times people will say, well, you're only giving 25% to the local food pantries, et cetera. But when you learn about what is done worldwide, I find it very rewarding, and I'm happy that they do what they do, and I'm happy for the crop walks that we do to help people.
Yeah, and we're extremely grateful for everything you do with the Crop Hunger Walk team. I would like to have one more question about Church World Service. 10 years ago. So did you hear about the Crop Hunger Walk, or did you hear about Church World Service, or both 10 years ago?
Well, when I came on board, I had just been aware of the hunger walk. I
Hmm.
didn't understand the structure of it.
Yeah.
And I sat in on the leadership meetings
Hmm.
because I was charged with doing the website. So I wanted to understand the whole
Hmm.
dynamic of the crop walk from inception to the actual walk itself.
Hmm.
And as I did that, I heard more and more about the work of Church World Service. And Maurice, what I like so much over the years, we've had uh, some staff members from Church World Service. For example, Margot, I think, was from Haiti,
Hmm.
and she
Correct. Yeah.
came to talk to our recipient agencies. Those are the people that we raise money for,
Hmm.
talking about what she does in Haiti and showing us the building that she's helping rebuild because of the hurricane, et cetera. So that's a lot of hands-on that people do around the world that I'm not sure gets the credit or the wide recognition of how they do so many good things for people, which is part of the hunger walk itself.
Hmm. Yeah. No, and a couple of years ago, I was also privileged to meet some of the local agencies that you support through your crop hunger walk as well. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that later. What I would like to ask first to you, Marty, is so slowly you learned more about the work of Church World Service, and you were expressing your appreciation of it. Um, what do you like most about the work of Church World Service?
I think what I find is the people that I've met and the dedication that they have to the work that they're doing, whether it be uh, the crop hunger walk, of which there are many managers that I've met, and I was fortunate enough. I think we're invited to an annual meeting in Chicago because we are so close to Chicago one
Hmm.
evening, and we met a lot of the board members,
Hmm.
etc. And I think the one thing I came away with is how enthusiastic everyone was for what they were doing and what they were about. So it speaks volumes when you're with them in a social setting and not a
Hmm.
formal conference setting, etc., to see them as people and that they are dedicated to what they're doing, and it comes through. So
Hmm.
it was very enlightening for me personally.
Yeah, it was during. I remember that when we had a social gathering during one of the board meetings that's being held in Chicago, and that's where you
Yes.
met some of the board and some of the staff, right? You mentioned you started, working for the Crop Hunger Walk or volunteering for the Crop Hunger Walk, being responsible for the website. But I think 10 years later, you're doing much more than that. So can you tell a little bit what you exactly are doing for your Crop Hunger Walk?
Certainly. Well, in the first year of the meetings, we were talking about how to get the word out. How do we tell people in our community what we're about and what the crop walk is about? And basically, it was through faith-based churches in our area that participated in the crop walk. But beyond that, there was no real mechanism to do that. And somebody said, "Why don't we use Facebook for that?" And I said, well,
Hmm.
Facebook, I've heard of it, I've dabbled in it, but I
Hmm.
really don't know how you would use it in the sense of what we want to accomplish, which is to inform more people about the crop walk. And just coincidentally, I got a local catalog from a local college that was offering a certificate in social media, and they were covering Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Well, I'm not sure Instagram was around 10 years ago, but
Hmm.
at any rate, I said, let me learn more because I don't know how to use it. And so I took the course, and it was enlightening for me. And I opened a Twitter account, and I started understanding how to use social media more to get the word out. And I was a firm believer that we have to go where the people are. We can't expect them to know who we are or come to us necessarily. And so I started doing Facebook posts and tweets, and then Instagram came in the picture. And as a matter of fact, this past year, I took a refresher course at the college just to learn more about Instagram because it really has exploded as
Yeah.
a platform for disseminating information.
Hmm.
So it's much more beyond the website, which I redesigned
Hmm.
this last year to make it more modern. And I do believe in trying to let people know on all different platforms because I don't know where they are. I know where we are,
Hmm.
but I have to get our message to them so they could be aware of the need in our community to help food pantries and people around the world, frankly.
Hmm. Marty, tell a little bit about what is your own background? How did your interest in, websites, video, um, etc., develop? Was that
Well,
due to your work, or
no,
always a hobby?
always a hobby. My first job as a teenager,
Hmm.
and my first paycheck that I got, I went over to a stand that sold cameras and I put down a deposit to buy a Brownie Hawkeye camera. And I
Mm.
was about 15 or 16 years old.
Yeah.
And I've always been interested in video. So I call myself a videographer because I like doing that
Hmm.
mostly for my family, but I like to do it for the crop walk as well
Mm.
because I think pictures tell 1,000 words and video tells you even more.
Hmm.
And so it was always a personal hobby. But one of the things, Maurice, I like to say about myself is I have the ability to unscrew my head and screw it back on again because things change and you can't be just stuck in the way you were when you were a teenager in your 20s, 30s, etc. And I always like to to know that there's other things out there that are happening, and I want to be in tune with that and learn about the way society is working, which is very dramatic these past few years.
Yeah, that's cool. And so, but what was your own original profession then,
Oh,
Marty? Yeah.
I've had uh, a variety of jobs. I worked on. I'm originally from New York. I grew up
Okay.
in Brooklyn, New York, and
Okay.
my first job was on as a worked for Chase Manhattan Bank,
Hmm.
and then went into the brokerage business. I was in the teletype area, and so I would send back buy orders and sell orders around the country and around the world. And when I left that, I went into sales, and I was in telex sales, which is now a dinosaur. But
Hmm.
and then from there, when that died because of facsimile, I went into administrative assistant work.
Mm.
I worked for a couple of CEOs, and so that's where they unscrew your head, screw your head back on part comes in
Hmm.
because I took the same proactive role in doing the best job I could in whatever industry I was in. And then I worked for a chairman of a Fortune 500 company for about 7 years as a personal assistant. So although I went to the company, I took care of his homes and cars, and so that was a very interesting time. And things change. And now I'm retired, which I highly recommend, by the way. And but even in that role of retirement, I'm still learning, and I still want to learn uh, because it's a wonderful world out there, and I want to be part of it.
So if I understand you correctly, in terms of involvement and in your knowledge about hunger and poverty within the U.S., outside of the U.S., that's something that came of the last 10 years, not because of the work before.
Well, not for the work before, but I was always contributing
Hmm.
as part of my yearly giving to the Chicago Food
Hmm.
Depository.
Hmm. Okay.
So I always believed in that issue of hunger, that no one should be going hungry. There's
Hmm.
no excuse for that.
Hmm.
And so when I was told about the crop hunger walk, that resonated with me. And the more I learned, the more I realized how important the work that the crop hunger walks do uh, around the country.
Okay. Thanks. For the listeners now, I'm showing you now a book, um, and that book was made uh, when Church World Service was celebrating its 50-year anniversary. And the title of that book was 50 Years of Help and Hope.
Hmm.
Now, my question to you is, if you would have been asked to make a book come up with the title of a book for 75 years anniversary of Church World Service, what are some of the keywords that you would suggest?
Well, I think my favorite keyword, Maurice, is a hashtag which I think I designed or came up with. I don't know if it's original or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's passion for compassion.
Mm.
And it's one that resonates with me personally. I believe in that because I am passionate about helping raise money for people who are hungry
Mm.
and have a compassion for people, and especially as it relates to CWS in the work they've done for immigrants and
Mm-hmm.
helping that whole community, which is devastated after the election before last.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I understood Church World Service to do in terms of helping immigrants and actually helping the U.S. government uh, to interview immigrants to come into the United States, and was doing that on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as we unfortunately know, the whole immigration thing blew up. And yet throughout, what I've read and see is that Church World Service is still doing that advocacy, and and I think that's a wonderful thing that
Mm-hmm.
Church World Service does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. No, and indeed, I mean, it's yeah, we are now in the process of doing more than
Yes.
we were able to do in the last 4 years. So that's something that's definitely positive and something very much needed. Um, Marty, if I'm asked to explain kind of the journey of Church World Service, um, I often explain it in terms of, in 1946, it was established by a number of different churches, Protestant, Anglican, and Orthodox, and they came together because they thought that they could do more together than alone, try to work ecumenically. Over the years, it has evolved into from a U.S. organization into a more global organization that works interfaith. If you hear me say that, on the basis of your experience within your own community, but also what you have read about Church World Service and the you know the meetings that you've had with staff, do you think that's a good description that I'm giving, or would you disagree with me? And for both, either if you agree, explain why, and if you disagree, also explain to me why you think I should describe that differently.
Well, Maurice, I do believe that what you described is accurate, and I see that within the hunger walk here in our community, because there's so many different denomination of churches that come together for the walk and raise money for the hungry. And there's no, and it's done together without any disagreement about their particular way of believing in their faith. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like it is one church,
Mm-hmm.
the church of humanity, and not saying, well, I'm a Lutheran or a Catholic or etc. There's none of that, which I
Mm-hmm.
find very rewarding, because this is all about people. And I think, as to your question, uh, I think that's what represents Church World Service too, in that you have all these different denominations working together for one common goal.
Right. And can you remind me? So are there also non-churches involved? Other type of communities, or other faiths? Non-Christian faith involved in your crop hunger walk, or not?
Uh, they are not. We've tried to solicit that, but it
Mm-hmm.
hasn't been successful.
Okay.
But we've also had businesses, because we focus on trying to get business to donate for two reasons. One is to help us with collateral material that it we spend to run the crop walk, even though we want every penny to go to the hungry. And some businesses have stepped up where one company, for example, said, well, we only uh, help one charity a year.
Mm-hmm.
And after the first year, they helped us the second year and then the third year.
Mm.
So I think that speaks to what's being done by the Hunger Walk, by Church World Service, the fact that this corporation, which wanted to spread their money around, resonated in coming to help us for
Mm.
3 years in a row. So,
That's great.
so it's not a lot of big businesses, but they're
Mm-hmm.
consistent. And whether they give $250 a year or 500, some give 1,000. And as I mentioned, our mutual person we know, Doug Wyman,
Mm-hmm.
who is 93 years old, last year got a foundation to give $10,000.
Wow.
So it's very rewarding,
Mm-hmm.
Maurice.
Yeah, yeah. And for people who haven't seen it, you are very active with podcasts and YouTube, videos. So
Yes.
I will make sure that I will put it in the podcast notes as well. But maybe you can mention it so that they can see also the interviews that you have done with the different crop hunger walk coordinators, walkers. I really think it's great what you do, and giving a face to all people that are related with your local hunger walk.
Yes. So the simplest is hwwcrop.org. That's our website. And on
Mm-hmm.
there are links to our YouTube channel, a podcast link
Mm-hmm.
that you speak of. And so from that one platform, you can get to our Instagram page and Twitter, etc., right from the website.
Can you tell a little bit about the local agencies or the local causes that are supported by the Crop Hunger Walk in your area?
Yes, we have 10 agencies that we walk for to raise money for. One is right around the corner from here, the Oak Park River Forest Food Pantry,
Mm-hmm.
which is now called Beyond Hunger, because they believe in doing more than just providing the food.
Mm-hmm.
They have nutritionists on staff, etc., to help people not only get the food, but how to cook it, how to make it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a very large organization. And then we have a small one that's run by the city government of Forest Park. It's a very small food pantry.
Mm-hmm.
And they get their help from volunteers from within the city. And for example, at the Thanksgiving time, the fire department helps box up turkeys and deliver them to people who can't come in to get them. And so it's a variety of food pantry sizes, and depending on the neighborhood they're in, they struggle to get money, and that's why we're happy to help.
And in terms of poverty and hunger, because I remember, the year that I visited your area, the different food pantries that I visited were really worried. They saw an increase in people, um, visiting and needing the food pantries, and an increase, if I remember well, in terms of mothers with children. So yeah, what are you seeing at the moment?
Well, the agencies are reporting, because we had a Zoom meeting with them
Mm-hmm.
several months ago, right when the pandemic started, and they were saying they're seeing double and triple the number of people coming in for food. That
Yeah.
it's what I called on one of my podcasts, the tsunami of need that just inundated them. They weren't prepared for it. I don't think anybody in our country was prepared for it. But in one way, to me, because for all these years we've been talking about what hunger is locally, and I don't think people appreciated it until it hit them. and the way it has hit everybody in our country, that they understand more now why the food pantries are so important to help people in a time of need.
Mhm.
And so, in a sense, it's easier for us to talk about what we're raising money for. I hate to use money numbers, Maurice, but last year at the start of the pandemic, which was in March, and our walk is in the first Sunday of May every
Mhm.
year, we had to switch to a virtual walk. And I guess amongst us, we said, well, this has upset how we do things. And we don't know how much money we could actually raise given what's happened. And
Yeah.
when the final numbers came in, it was the most amount of money we've ever raised in
Wow.
the
Wow.
37 years that we have been doing this. It raised $100,000.
Mm.
And we were
Incredible.
all blown away by it, except for Doug Wyman,
Mhm.
because he told us about 5-6 years ago, our goal should be $100,000. And we all thought it couldn't be reached.
Mm.
And now we have to say, you're right, Doug. It can be done because it was such an outpouring of people having a passion for compassion, as I call it,
Yeah.
and donated money. So
Wow.
it couldn't be more fulfilling.
Yeah, and Duck is your number one, right, fundraiser in
Yes,
your area.
and actually he's number 3 in the United States in online fundraising.
Incredible.
So he is.
Yeah.
I just did a video of him on his 5 steps of how he goes about raising money, and I just
Mhm.
put it on our YouTube channel, and
Mhm.
he goes over step by step what he does every year. And
Yeah,
so,
I've seen it, so I really advise people to check out that particular video. But
yeah,
any of your videos are really great.
thank you.
Marty, if you have to name one of your fellow crop hunger walkers or one of your partners, local or within the world, or CWS staff member, anybody who is involved with the crop hunger walk and church world service, but name one person. Yeah, a person who best embodies what we together do is about. Who will you name and why?
To that question, Maurice, circling around my head
Mm-hmm.
were 3 people, but I only have to choose one. So
Yeah.
I have to fall back to Doug Wyman.
Mm.
At age 93, I
Yeah.
look up to. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
78, and he's the person I look up to. He's my hero for doing what he does year after year, and without anybody really asking him to do it. He knows the need, and so he's my inspiration. And second and third are people, our local CWS liaison has been extremely helpful, and one of our food pantries, the Beyond Hunger, the person who runs that is just phenomenal in the work she does.
Do you have their names with you or
Oh yes, well, John Scogan at
okay.
Church World Service,
Mm-hmm.
and Beyond Hunger is wow, her name is escaping me at the moment, but she does a phenomenal job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Do you remember how many years Duck is already involved with the crop hunger walk?
I think about this, yeah, around 9 or 10 years.
10 years also.
He started as a crossing guard,
Mm-hmm.
and then he got more involved on the planning committee. And
Mm-hmm.
I did a podcast of him about 6 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and he talked how the first year he did X amount of dollars and set a goal, and then he doubled it, and he doubled it.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's at a point of number 3 in the United States. So
Unbelievable. But when he started, he was still young, right? 80. Yeah.
exactly.
Unbelievable. Yeah, so much
True.
respect for everybody that is involved with our crop hunger walks. It's pretty amazing. Any anecdote or experience or memory that you would like to share with our listeners in the 10 years that you worked on the in as part of the Krap Hunger Walk?
I guess the one that comes to mind is our team member, Tom Holmes.
Hmm.
He's a retired Lutheran pastor, and he has a physical condition that it requires him to use a walker.
Mm.
And he's part of our business committee. And so when we first started this, he used a cane, and now he's using a walker.
Mm.
And I think 2 years ago, I did a video of him walking around Forest Park where he lives, going into businesses to ask them to support the Crop Hunger Walk. And so that's even though he speaks, his speech is compromised because of the condition he has,
Hmm.
and his feet are compromised because of the condition he has. His mind and his heart are not compromised,
Mm.
and he does the work he does. So there's a whole bunch of people on the team that just inspire me uh, every
Hmm.
time we get together and every year that we have a walk.
Incredible.
Yes,
Mm.
we're very lucky.
Yeah. Marty, and it's great that we have people like Doug, we have people like supporting this important work. But as Church World Service as a whole, but I also think your walk, we try to engage the younger audience as well, and there we see, we are facing quite some challenges. How is that with your walk? Are you able to to engage the younger audience as well, or explain a little bit or share a little bit about how that is going?
That's an ongoing issue that we speak about every year. How do we get young people involved? Uh, when I did the podcast several years ago, I specifically interviewed uh, 3 children. One was 10 years
Hmm.
old, and I think
Hmm.
12 and 16. And at one point, we had a teacher who brought her class to the crop walks, and then she retired. And so I think it's an ongoing issue. And I just spoke to the person on our team that's going to work with youth this year.
Mm.
And so I guess it's difficult because you need to be where they are. And so if I walked into a school, I don't think, and said, I want to speak to young people,
Hmm.
I don't think in today's environment that would be well received.
Mm.
So we look toward the youth pastors and the various faiths, churches here to try and engage them. But Maurice, it really hasn't been successful, and
Hmm.
I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Again, I tried to use social media
Mm.
with the hopes that they would be involved, and I guess I'm not doing a good job at it just yet.
Hmm.
But I did talk to somebody yesterday about the youth involvement, and I came up with uh, a hashtag for youth this
Mm.
morning, and it's HWW Kids Care,
Mm.
and hope to use that hashtag throughout the campaign and see if that resonates with
Mm.
any young people.
In Church World Service, we have had in the last number of years a lot of discussions about the brand as a whole, right? And especially how can you ensure um, you know attracting a younger audience. So there are many aspects if you talk about the brand, but one of the aspects is the name of the organization, because especially what we have found is that the word church for the younger generation often seems to be an obstacle in joining. Um, so my question to you is, if you would hear from a church world service that organization decided to change its name into something else, what would be the reaction from you and your crop hunger walk, do you think?
Uh, I, I I guess my initial reaction, Maurice, is I
Mhm.
don't think you should do that.
Mhm.
Just like, it's a crop hunger walk.
Mhm.
And I think in today's vernacular, I've been saying for years, it should be a march
Mhm.
because it's an advocacy position.
Mhm.
And so we've evolved from a walk to a march in
Mhm.
my mind.
Mhm.
But, we say crop hunger walk. There's a whole story you have to give about what crop means.
Mhm.
And it's a legacy word that we should be prideful of how it all started
Mhm.
back over 50 years ago, 51, 52 years ago. But uh, I'm not sure that I could say I would like to see Church World Service take the word church out of their name. So I have
Mhm.
to disagree with what I can come up with.
Mhm. Yeah. And how do you think the rest of the walk participants would react to that?
Uh, a variety of ways because there are young
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
I mentioned Tom Holmes on our team is also uh, on the business committee, but is also a reporter for a local
Mhm.
newspaper. And he wrote an article called Nuns,
Mhm.
Nones,
Yeah.
about how the amount of people going to church, etc., have declined,
Mhm.
that they still feel and see spirituality within how they feel about people
Mhm.
in the world, but they don't necessarily see the physical structure of a church resonating with them the way it has from its inception,
Mhm.
which is we didn't have social media, we didn't have uh, all the electronics that we have now to keep us connected.
Mhm.
And so the physical location of a church was paramount for community.
Mhm.
And and I think from what I've seen, they're all struggling in terms of membership, but the fact is that what they do is still very important. And so I think we have to address it. We have to understand it.
Mhm.
But so again, I'm conflicted about whether
Mhm.
the word church should be removed.
Have a lot of different opinions about that. And again, change of the name is just one aspect of the brand. You know, um, there are many aspects to the
Well,
brand, from
that's why I
colors
want
and
to
the
change it.
language that you use. Yeah,
That's why I wanted to change it to March
yeah,
instead of
yeah.
walk. So it's that
That
kind of
that's a
thing.
very interesting suggestion, and it's um,
I think it
and I
speaks
understand
to
where you
the
come
young
from.
people
Yeah,
today.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. I tend to agree there. Hey, Marty, a question that I almost always ask my guests as well is if you would be asked to come up with a song or a piece of music that represent Church World Service and its work, what song would you come up with?
Well, Maurice, I must confess, because I listen to your podcasts, I do know that sooner or later you ask that question. And I thought about that the other day after listening to your podcast. And the one song that came to mind is What the World Needs Now by Jackie DeShannon. It's what the world needs now is love, sweet love. And I won't try and sing it because I can't. But that to me represents what Church World Service does.
Hmm.
So take a
Okay.
listen.
Yeah, no, I think I know the song. I'm bad with titles, but I think I know the song. And so, well, what I did with the podcast Walk Talk Listen is I came up with a Spotify song list. So all the songs that are mentioned by my guests, I put them all together, and
Yeah.
I'm planning to do the same with a CWS 75 year
Oh, great. Yeah, I did
song
try and
list as
find it.
well.
I did try and find it and I couldn't. So,
Oh, in Spotify, it's the song list is hashtag Walk Talk Listen.
ah,
Yeah.
okay. Thank
And
you.
then it's a very eclectic list of songs. So
Well,
some people
and
have rock songs and others are
so are your
classical.
guests. So,
Yes, they absolutely. Yes.
yes.
Yeah. Um, No, and that's what I try to do, to show a wide range of different people from different parts of the world. But I think you at the same time you see a lot of commonalities. People are closer than you think they are. Um, when you really listen closely to what they say. So
Well,
a
that's
lot of
what
fun
I
to do.
enjoy about your podcast is that whether they come from a faith-based background or not, whether a secular belief, that
Hmm.
there's all one thing in common is that they all believe in the good.
Hmm.
And one of the things a meme uh, I use, matter of fact, on Doug's video is called that I got from Church World Services, "Be the Good,"
Hmm.
uh, and I really believe that, be the good in this world,
Hmm.
and that's what it's all about. So
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Marty, we are slowly coming to the end of our conversation today. Yeah, just it's always so nice to hear from you and about your enthusiasm and yeah, it's so great for our organization that there are people like you who I think breathe church world service and are busy with trying to help other people almost day and night. So that's incredible. So many thanks for everything you do, and you have done, and who you are. Yeah, any message or any wish from your side?
I guess the message would be to continue the work that you do, and that I know that everyone at Church World Service has a hashtag passion for compassion, and that's what you show in all the work that you do, whether
Mhm.
it's building a house in Haiti or helping immigrants navigate coming to this country, to helping the hungry. So many facets, and I wish you continued success because I think you've been successful.
Great. Thank you so much, Marty, for yeah, your willingness to speak with me today. And I think your walk is spring or fall?
Spring,
Spring.
May
Okay.
2nd this
Uh-huh.
year.
So that's still coming up.
Yes, it is.
I assume it will be virtual again because we
Yes,
are
it
not there
is.
yet. Yeah.
Correct, correct. And
Um,
we just had a team captains meeting Saturday to give them
mhm.
material, and we're having a Zoom tomorrow with them to talk about how they could do walks around their neighborhoods and
Mhm.
still, uh, we have little signs and things like that. That's why I did these T-shirts several years
Mhm.
ago, because at that time there was 300-400 people walking in our community, and
Mhm.
prior to the shirts, nobody really knew what we were doing out there. It's just a bunch of people walking.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I wanted to give it an identity, and I recommended this. And so we did it for about 3 years, and it
Great.
made a difference. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful shirts. What I forgot to ask you is because you were alluding to the pandemic before and how it had affected probably the number of people that needed support locally. How is your yeah, your crop hunger wall community? How did they did they go through this pandemic? How are they doing?
Uh, they're doing like the rest of us. Most of the churches have virtual meetings
Hmm.
over Zoom or YouTube, uh, and I think one of the differences I heard was that some of their parishioners who moved to other states now join them on Sundays because it could be done virtually. And so they're getting a few more members that they had
Mm.
lost because of the physical location. So that's one thing. And the other part is that they've all stepped up to help, even though it's double and triple. Uh, and we're happy to help too. Matter of fact, we just got a grant from a local community foundation that gave us $15,000 to help
Wow.
because of the pandemic.
Mm.
So we're very fortunate for that as well.
Okay, Marty. Keep doing what you do. Thanks a lot. Please say hi to. That's so bad with names.
Joanne.
Yeah, I stayed at their place.
Yes, Joanne Despodis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She pushed us over the $100,000, by the way.
Great.
We're at 94, 6 or 7, and she and her husband just called around and got us over the mark. So
okay, continue to stay safe, and again, thanks for everything you do, and until next time, and I will continue to follow your podcast. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Maurice. Have a great day.
You too. This conversation with Marty was recorded before the Crop Hunger Walk of 2021. They raised $134,000 as virtual walk, ranking them the 5th out of close to 700 walks in 2021. This year, they are about at 120,000, and they expect to report the final figures before the month of July of this year. It's absolutely incredible. And if you do happen to live in the United States and are inspired by what Marty is doing and many others in this country, please go to crophungerwalk.org, and I'm pretty sure there is a crop hunger walk close in the town, village, or city where you live. Take care.
Do you see you? Do you see me? Will you be the eyes so that we all can be?
Thank you for listening to Walk, Talk, Listen. Please check us out on 100mile.org or follow us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you want to know more about Church World Service, please go to cwsglobal.org.